Welcome to the Missouri Valley Football First and Goal podcast. I'm Kelly Burke, and joining me today is the new head football coach at North Dakota State, Tim Polasek. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing good. Excited to touch base with you, Kelly, and obviously looking forward to the season. And our guys have about 8 more days of training, and then we'll give them a little 2-day break, 3-day break, and send them off with a cookout. And we're ready to rock and roll. Bring the staff back next week, Monday, and we'll be up and running.
Yeah, I mean, less than 6 weeks from now, you guys are going to be playing your first game, it's come up fast, but I know everybody's looking forward to it.
Yeah, they've, basically since December 27th or whenever I got to Fargo to kind of start working, all the talk has been about Colorado, and I've deflected, on just how much improvement we need to make, getting our core values and our standards established, getting our guys in the weight, strength, and conditioning program, and, just getting the basics implemented. There's been a lot of questions about Deion Sanders, Colorado. What are you looking forward to most? And so it's exciting to have it around the corner, but we really do have a lot of work prior to worrying about Colorado. I just completed our fall camp schedule, and, quite frankly, we don't get to them until August, 20th or the 21st. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done prior to that.
Yeah, you mentioned, just introducing your core values. You've got 3 of them: compete, improve, and tough. Why did you choose those 3 in particular?
Well, I think when you talk about core values, right? I mean, that's just it. You're talking about the DNA of who you are as a person. How I feel about compete and improve, it's kind of interesting. I found a paper from my coaching football 101 class when I was like 18 years old.
Nice.
And my philosophy at that time was, my thoughts at that time, because my philosophy was not developed, was compete and improve with consistency. And so I've always, as an athlete, college athlete, youngster, high school athlete, I've always valued competition. I love competition. I love competing. It's my purest form of joy. I really, I have a lot of fun when there's a competitive nature to it. And so compete's always been near and dear to my heart. I'm a very competitive person. And then on top of that, the thing I value most, I think Coach Ferentz at Iowa really opened my eyes up to, and solidified my belief in improvement.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you can consistently improve and you can come together as a team late in the year, you have a chance to have a special season. And so compete, improve, we're always there. And then where I fell on toughness was just having an appreciation for discipline and mental toughness. Obviously at North Dakota State, we'd want to be the most physical team in the country. I mean, that's kind of been a standard here that we've established, a goal that we've always worked toward, having a lot of pride in. And so those are our 3 core values. And I thought those would be a good way to get year 1 up and running. An exercise that we do is we try to have everybody on the team identify what are their core values going to be for their teammates and for who they are academically, socially, and football wise. And so I think core values are really, really critical to being true to yourself, to being a good teammate. So we can all be accountable for those things daily.
Yeah. Was there a common theme that when the players did this exercise that, a common core value that a lot of them said?
Gosh, I wish I could pull up their profile pages, because next to their picture and kind of what they did, so I could get to know them, are there 3 core values that they chose through this through this exercise that we do, that I got from the book called The Program. Passion shows up a lot. Accountability shows up a lot. I think faith is one of those things in our team that's strong.
Mm-hmm.
Shows up a lot of, integrity. But you do get variance in, balance. Some guys that are really deep into their careers or have come up as leaders understand how important balance is. And the thing I encourage our guys is, no matter where you're at as an 18-year-old, it's all about getting on a knee and asking somebody to marry you someday. Mm-hmm. And really understanding who you are going to be for your family and for them, as a husband and a wife combo is so critical. And so we'll do that exercise kind of seasonally and see what guys are changing as we go. And but those are a couple, I think, that show up, you know, competitive spirit, pride, accountability, those kind of resonate, passion kind of resonate through our team.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that you did that. I've actually done an exercise like that with one of my business mentors. He took me, this is probably 5 years ago, but yeah, told me to come up with 5 core values. And one of my big ones is honesty. So I think it's so important to kind of know what you stand on. Coach, this is your third stint at North Dakota State. You obviously started in Fargo as a GA. How full circle is it now to be back as the head coach?
Yeah, I'm going to try not to get long-winded, right? But, you know, college football the last 2-3 years has been ever changing, has been evolving, a lot of things really positive, some things that we're learning how to work through. So there was a point in my career when I didn't get the job here, when Coach Ferentz got it, when I interviewed when I was at Iowa, you know, I dove into this leadership thing, full steam ahead. I took it as, you know, not a slap in the face because Matt Entz was the right guy for the job at the time, but I took it as, hey, you're not as sharp as you think you are, right? You need to dive in. And then when I got to Wyoming, it became real apparent to me how much I just love coaching football, right? Like really, you know, Andrew Peasley, the quarterback we had there the last 2 years, and being affected by the portal a little bit at Wyoming, it became crystal clear to me. I didn't necessarily want to be a head coach at every mid-major school in the country, but NDSU I'd always had circled. And so getting back to your question about it coming full circle, when that opportunity came open and Coach Roll, who's a wonderful coach, you know, we were in each other's weddings, you know, and the job was going to be kind of an open competition, you know, and was able to capitalize on the opportunity interviewing with the president and the AD here. I had that moment of like, okay, this is a huge challenge and this is something you always wanted to do at North Dakota State. And so full circle for me is when Craig Bohl was a big part of setting up the interview in Laramie. He announced his retirement. So much of my foundation and belief in how to practice, how important team and community is, was all developed with Coach Bohl. And so I think it's really one of those things that's pretty neat as far as getting to put it into action now at a place that gave you so much. Like, I feel like this place has developed me into the coach and the recruiter that I am. I met my wife here. And so any 50-50 decision over the years, I've always promised her we would take advantage of that. And so to be able to come back to North Dakota and come back to Fargo in this community, I mean, it means a lot. And we got to do some big things here to accomplish the standard that we helped to develop, but it's everything. It means everything.
Yeah. You mentioned your wife. I mean, you got the introductory press conference, you know, you got visibly emotional talking about her, your wife, Jill. So how much joy does it bring you to be able to bring her home to where she's from?
It's like, you know, marriage for a football coach isn't always easy. You know, she was very successful in Edward Jones. And then we take a job and we go to DeKalb, you know, Northern Illinois for 345 days and we come back. Quickly, I think she realized, okay, this landscape can change pretty fast. You know, starting with having to relocate your wedding and do all that. And so when I think back on what she's sacrificed and what she's given up professionally, relationships wise, to just give her a chance at least to reconnect with people that are important in her life while I chase this crazy profession of football. I mean, if you get, I mean, I'd like to think I'm a emotional person. I do care a lot, but when you get to thinking about what your wife or your family or your kids, and just like think about moving, you know, the wives have to do that all on their own. And we've done that a few times. I hope that she has the same joy or the same feelings that I do. Okay, he's done everything he can to get us back in position where we can build a home.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because I see a lot of parallels. I'm friends with a lot of coaches' wives, but I'm from a 3rd generation military family. And so my brother's lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, and I look at what my sister-in-law has done, and it's very parallel, the journeys that military wives and coaches' wives go on a little bit, because again, you have to be super independent, manage the household, you know, a lot of times by yourself. You know, I don't know, I never thought about it until recently, just how the parallels between the two.
Yeah, it's, I know I have a better appreciation today than I did, let's say, you know, after we beat Iowa in 16 and getting that job. You know, to me, like, that was such a no-brainer professionally to have the opportunity to coach with Coach Ferentz or for Coach Ferentz and be at Iowa and be in the Big Ten, being a Big Ten regional guy, I guess. You know what? Just go to the bottom, packing boxes, reorganizing, redesigning, redecorating a house, getting your yard set up is one thing, but all the paperwork and signing, you know, onto a new bank and loans and like, just, I have such a great appreciation, and I probably need to do a better job of letting her know how much I appreciate her, because our house is phenomenal because of her.
Yeah.
You know, and she does so many things, from setting it up and making it home and feel like home everywhere we've been, that I don't think we should undervalue that.
Mm-hmm. When you left North Dakota State the second time, and you took that job as the offensive line coach at Iowa, that was a position group you hadn't coached before. So how did that experience make you a better coach?
Well, it's interesting because, you know, Iowa, they probably looked at a couple other guys first, right, that had coached the O-line. I think for them, their process as it went on, I went through about a 16-hour interview there.
Wow.
And it felt like everything but being interviewed as the O-line coach. So I thought they did a really good job of testing me in football knowledge, teaching style, recruiting approach, recruiting of philosophies. I mean, it was one of my most enjoyable football experiences I've ever had, but it was a test.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a test with multiple people, you know, different groups of people, the defense, the offense. And so I think kind of how that all came about was Iowa had a foundation of a way to do and way to coach offensive line. The drills were set, the philosophy was set. There were multiple people in the building, 1, 2, 3, 4 former O-line coaches, including the strength coach, who had an understanding of how they were going to do it. So I was going to get plenty of help. And I think they felt really confident from an X and O standpoint and from a leverage standpoint, you know, playing the game fundamentally, that I would be able to adapt and stay in their boxes. And so honestly, the transition was a little bit easier than I would have thought it was going in, because there were so many parameters. You know, you only got to do 4 run drills a day. You know, and we hit repeat on those 4 run drills. We only had 5 pass pro drills, and we did those every day. And so those boxes allowed me just to get after their fundamentals and their coaching points immediately. And then schematically, I'm not saying it was an easy fit, but schematically, that part, you know, worked out quicker than actually just learning the basics.
Yeah. When Matt Larson, the North Dakota State athletic director, when he introduced you, he talked about just how the scope of this football job is a monumental task. What has been the biggest challenge for you in this first 7 months as you've tackled your first head coaching job?
You know, I think it was just, honestly, just really trying to get to know the players. There were so many of them that I had recruited at other places. But really getting to know them and talk to them about the vision and my story, you know, it felt like I was selling the fact that I'm a Bison. You know, and we have a saying here, and everybody believes in this, but once a Bison, always a Bison. Those who stay will be champions. You know, Bison pride. And so once I was able to project my story to the group and then to several individuals, that became a little bit easier as time went on. But that initially was a real test. I mean, this program is built on a lot of pride. These players, you know, were in the corner of Coach Roll for sure. And getting them to understand my story and my relationship with Coach Roll. And it's been really good because there's been several players on offense that are like, okay, I get it now. I get where Coach Roll said that or why you are the way you are. That's been a big challenge. And then just reuniting with our support here at NDSU, it's so big, like, team makers, our foundation of how we raise money and getting reestablished after 7 years of being gone with the community and with the support, has been, it's taken a lot of energy and time away from my wife. But those two things probably have been the biggest challenge. And then, as well as anybody, we had to hire an operations guy in June, late June.
Yeah.
We had to hire a recruiting guy in late June. So some of those hires being when they happened this year because of the transition was really challenging while we were official visiting kids in June, running our camps. So those three things I would probably tend to lean towards saying first.
Yeah. I talked to Matt about this last year, and I've talked to previous North Dakota State head coaches about this too, is just the level of success that you have had there with that program. The expectation is so high. The expectation every year is to win a national championship. It's very much, like Alabama in that sense. And so, sometimes you have fans that look at it as if you're not winning a national title every year, the season is a failure, whether that's fair or not. So how would you measure success this year?
Just honestly, if every day we go out and compete and improve and we're tough, we're staying off the front page of the newspaper, because of our mental toughness, our pride in the program. And then honestly, like, I really do believe this. I think we have a really good football team right now, but you kind of mentioned it. A good football team sometimes ain't enough for our fan base.
Yeah.
But I do believe if we compete and we improve daily, and we come together and our toughness and our togetherness is great in November, we'll have a chance to do special things. If we reach our full potential as a football team, that equals success to me. But it is so hard to verbally say and to express, because anything short of championships, at the national level and the conference level, which the conference is better than it's ever been before.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reality that we live in here at North Dakota State, and we're well aware of that. But I think one of the things that Craig Bohl did such a good job of is we didn't talk about winning the national title. We talked about getting home field advantage. We talked about winning the Missouri Valley Conference or the Great West, going back when we were in that conference. And I think we have to create daily habits that'll lead to success. The goals are important, but everybody in our building, everybody in this community knows, it starts and ends with championships. We have to keep our core values at the forefront. And when we do that and we reach our full potential as a football team, I think that's going to look like success. For a coaching staff, if we can position our players to where it's a player's game every week and position them to have a chance to make plays, I really do believe that's one of our big roles in the players' lives, along with creating roles for them and them understanding they have to grow it. Okay. And then we have to be teachers first and teachers of the game first. And then when players show up with big body language and they're coachable, beautiful relationships will be developed. And those are important to us as well.
Mm-hmm. When you got hired for your first college football coaching job, you were a lumberjack on the side to make ends meet. How does the hunger of that young man who so badly just wanted to work in college football, how does that still burn inside you?
The way it does is when I think about my family back home and my friends, like, I have such a respect level for people that go, 8, 10, 12-hour days, right? I mean, they're literally, there's some positives, right? You punch the clock on both ends and then you leave work and you get to do whatever else is in your life, where we don't necessarily have that. As football coaches, you never turn off recruiting. You never turn off thinking about the game or the team. But my appreciation for what I get to do starts with the fact that I was a lumberjack, a logger. Starts with, the fact that in college, I was in a steel mill in the summertime and the wintertime. And so I've done some of those jobs, and every day I wake up and I realize how fortunate we are to coach and teach this great game and to lead coaches and to lead players and to help them to reach their full potential brings a lot of joy to me. And I have a lot of respect for the position I'm in, but there's also a lot of joy that comes with it because of some of the hard tasks and hard jobs I had early in my career.
What is worse, getting a logging concussion or a football concussion?
I think football because, you got to leave the game most times. You're letting down your teammates, that sense of, you get a logging concussion, they take care of you and they kind of send you home for the day.
Yeah.
But I did actually have one of those when I was logging. I got, my helmet got split open from, they call them widowmakers.
Mhm.
Loggers get hurt a lot from the branches that fall from other trees that are being cut down. And so I would say football because you're letting your teammates down, you're having to exit a competition. And, you only get so many of those opportunities to play this great game. And that's probably harder.
Yeah. You're a former standout D3 quarterback. What makes a great QB?
Ooh. A guy that knows how to earn the respect of his teammates, always stays true to his core values so guys know where to turn when the pressure goes up. I think it's critical. And then, right, like accurate thrower, a guy that can extend plays with his feet, a guy that understands what a bad play looks like because of what the defense is doing to you is critical in our system. But man, I really do look at the leadership piece. And then like natural playmaking, Brock Jensen's a guy that never gets talked about around here anymore because of Easton Stick, Carson Wentz, and Trey Lance. And now we got what we think is a pretty good player in Cam Miller. But, the one thing Brock always did was he kept us on the field. If we needed 7 yards, he found 7.5, with his feet and that grit and that toughness. We refer to that a lot as third down grit. And I think a quarterback that has great third down grit, whether that's the mental toughness to push the ball in there in a tight spot or to find an alley to run, is so critical. So those couple things are important, but those guys got to find a way to be themselves and not to be cookie cutters. And then, kind of the South Dakota State guy, right? He's tough, man. He makes a lot of plays in critical moments. Those are the 5 or 6 plays a game that you need, and most of them come from the quarterback position.
Yeah. The Dakota Marker game this year is going to be televised nationally, on linear TV, which is a huge deal. It hasn't been done in the conference before. How does that amplify this rivalry even more?
Well, I don't know if it amplifies it in their locker room or ours, but what it does do is it brings national attention to 2 outstanding programs. South Dakota State has done such a good job. They've done such a good job in the COVID era recruiting, and sustaining and maintaining their program. It's always been a dogfight. If you look back on the history of it over the last 15 years, I just think anytime that you've got a rivalry, a border war, a rivalry that has some national attention to it, I think that's good for our conference, and I think that's good for both schools.
Yeah. You mentioned you won't really turn your attention to Colorado till August 20th, but I'm sure you're anticipating, the media attention, the interview requests for you and your players are going to be in overdrive that week. So besides the fact that Colorado has a bunch of new players and new coordinators and that whole on the field component, how do you manage all the hoopla surrounding the game?
Well, it's good, right? It's not, for several of our coaches and for myself, it's not our first rodeo, I guess. I have a lot of respect for Colorado. I have a lot of respect for the excitement around their program, the excitement that Deion Sanders brings to the table on anything that he's involved in. Going back to when he was a commentator and an analyst, it's just really exciting, but we got to keep the main thing. And the main thing is we've got 4 quarters to play. We want it to be a 4-quarter game, obviously, and then believe in the things that we believe in. If it's deep in the 4th quarter, potentially we'll have a shot to make a play or 2. That's kind of what we learned from the Iowa victory. You learn from the Kansas State victory. 9 of our 9 wins over FBS teams, I think 3 or 4 of those things were real knockdown, drag out type games. So we have a good blueprint for that. I learned a lot being at Iowa, going in and playing a team like Ohio State, you know, and we were fortunate to get a big win that night. But playing in those Penn State battles was unbelievable. And the thing you just, you know, if you can prepare properly, the guys will have a chance to go out and function in what can be a pretty intense time. The thing I love about the game the most is I think it's going to set us up for bigger moments coming down the road during the season.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt about that. A couple more questions for you because I want to be respectful of your time. You know, give me an example. I've heard you talk about with Coach Ferentz, you learned a lot about the little things. So give me an example of a little thing that you emphasize in practice because of what you learned from Coach Ferentz.
Yeah, you know, at Iowa we had, you know, a bunch of rules like, you know, just your jersey tucked in, you wear your socks a certain, you know, he always wanted to practice like we were going to be mandated to play. That would be one. How specific and detailed they were in their strength and conditioning and nutrition. You know, a lot of people don't know this, but about Iowa, I don't think they pour in more, nobody pours in more resources into their, you know, their greens and their vegetables, their nutrition, what's in their weight room, the refueling. You know, it took a lot away from that and how detailed that was in the investment that it takes to, you know, maybe to not be able to recruit the highest level guy, but to be able to play everybody tough in the conference. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's won roughly 10 games a year for 25 years on average. The fundamentals, I wanted to talk about those things first and make my strongest point here. The fundamentals and the basics. You know, if you just play clean football, you don't turn it over, you're not penalized very often. You know, you really do have a shot to win every game if you tackle the football and play special teams. You know, like those things are huge, you know. So they had a saying there, like being brilliant at the basics would allow you to have a chance to win every game. And I think we're going to try to sharpen our sword, take like that mindset along with all the schematical things that we do here, that we do feel like put some stress on some people. But we want to do the fundamentals, and that's the thing that I'm preaching probably more than ever is, you know, simple things like how do we talk about leverage? At Iowa, they all say the same terms, horizontal and vertical leverage. That's just an example, but being brilliant at the basics, playing clean football. You know, I think this is an Iowa Hawkeye wrestling thing, but Coach Ferentz, you know, kind of took it from those guys, from Coach Gable. Go longer and harder than your opponent, you know, and just, you know, out wrestle them, right? So those few things are what I took the most. And then I'll leave you with this. There's just no reason not to treat people, you know, in your building, you know, possess a genuine appreciation for the job and the role everybody has. That might seem like a little thing, but it is huge. And I think North Dakota State's always done it, but me getting a chance to see Iowa and that be at the forefront from Coach Ferentz and from Mary Ferentz, his wife, you know, just again, solidified something I felt strong in, but I appreciate my time at Iowa, you know, immensely. Great people, good football coaches, but better people. You know, I stole this from there too. Better people make better Hawkeyes. You know, better people make better Bison.
Yeah,
that's what we're looking for.
No doubt. What is the backstory behind the Bison picture or canvas you have behind you in the office? Was that there when you got to? Okay.
Actually, you know, when I got back here, okay, so my first year, 2006, I actually had to help move everything into the Fargo Dome for the office setup as a GA. Okay. In a lot of our office stuff, quite frankly, you know, really represents Coach Bull's personality, you know, in like his style still. And then there's a great deal of respect that we want to pay through the tradition and the history of our program. A lot of people will say, you know, recruiting is the lifeblood of their program, and recruiting is important, right? Bringing in new people into your program for the future. At North Dakota State, we talk a lot about our lifeblood, being the former players and all the past people that have been involved in our program, including coaches, and paying respect to them. And so the artwork has kind of been here for a minute. And they actually asked if I wanted to replace it. And I said, no, I want to keep it. I want to mandate that we keep it.
Yeah.
So
No,
that's been here for a while.
I mean, it's cool. It's like stands out. It was the first thing I noticed when you popped up on the Zoom screen. The last thing I'll ask you, I know you like to read leadership books. I'm a big reader. What's the best leadership book that you've read? Or if you had to give a top 3?
Culture Code. The program, for sure. Gosh, there's, that The Slight Edge is really good.
Good one.
Yeah, I really have an appreciation for a book called The One Big Thing. And part of it, you want to find books that you kind of agree with.
Yeah.
But that book talks a lot about counterbalance instead of balance in life. Because if you want to be great at something, you got to really dedicate your time to it. The Legacy, the book about the All Blacks is tremendous.
Yeah.
The Ideal Team Player is really good. And so there's been several. The Energy Bus I like a lot. Yeah, try to find 1 or 2 over the summer to read. I'm finishing up Atomic Habits right now.
Oh, that's a good one. James Clear. Yeah, he's got a good newsletter that goes out every week too. I've the Energy Bus, I've read a lot of the ones you've said. Energy Bus. So Dave Steckel used to be the coach at Missouri State, and he was a huge Energy Bus guy. That was like one of his favorite books. So
yeah, you know what? It's probably a book. What I like to do is read books, and then I go, while I'm reading, I underline things, and then I kind of type up my own notes for them. But Energy Bus is probably one that wouldn't be bad to revisit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's simple, but it has such a good message to it. So
yeah, the other one I guess I would say, and I know Coach Kleinman really appreciates a book called Pound the Stone. Was really good. It's really, relates well to the kids and the players.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things that it's hard, like in year 1, to get everything up and running and implemented when you're trying to hire people, you're trying to get to know the kids. But our leadership school and our captain's school is something I look forward to continuing to be a big part of. And I think books and sleep are 2 things in college football that are underappreciated. And I think are 2 of the best supplements in the world. And I did learn that at Iowa as well. And so hopefully we can keep kind of driving that to the players here.
Yeah. Well, Coach, I appreciate you taking the time with me and look forward to getting to know you better as the season goes on. And I'm excited for fall camp to start.
Yeah. You have a great afternoon, and I look forward to a future relationship.
Yeah. Thank you so much.